Hotep. All right, so yeah, it really bothers me to hear her story. I think that there's been a big wrong done to this woman. Heads will roll. Okay, we're gonna finish because there's a lot to cover.
Brand new. I am not illiterate, nor am I feeble-minded. I never went into high school, but yet I still acquired a college degree. They also justified that my child or my children would be feeble-minded. My son is the president of his own semiconductor company. He has his own construction company. And he has his own real estate company. How can you think that your government allowed or allowing these things to happen to a person, a life? You can't say nothing, you have a right. To me, they took away all of my rights. They sterilized kids from, my understanding, my knowledge, as young as 8 years of age. I don't know what an 8-year-old can do that could cause them to do this to them. The only reason I can give myself is that because they're black.
In 1961, social worker Sue Casebolt had been installed as the executive secretary of the North Carolina Eugenics Board. At a board meeting held 3 weeks later, she stated that she was going to keep a file on every child whose name reached her desk so that they could be picked up as soon as they reached childbearing age. Casebolt was still on the board in 1968 when it approved the sterilization of 14-year-old Elaine Riddick.
It is better for all the world if instead of waiting to execute degenerate offspring for crime or to let them starve for their imbecility, society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit from continuing their kind. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. Oliver Wendell Holmes, U.S. Supreme Court Justice, 1927.
Holmes made this statement in his ruling on the constitutionality of Virginia's forced sterilization law. It mirrored the views of President Theodore Roosevelt, who had originally appointed Holmes to the Supreme Court. In a 1913 letter to American Eugenics Society founder Charles Davenport, Roosevelt had stated that the country had no business allowing citizens of the wrong type to reproduce.
In 1907, Indiana had become the first of more than 30 states to pass sterilization laws, and some of those laws stayed on the books well into the 1970s. In fact, the state of Oregon did its last sterilization in 1981 and did not abolish its eugenics board until October of 1983.
Some states practice sterilization without ever creating an official eugenics board. In those instances, few if any records were kept. And in the states that did keep records, many have never been made available to the public. But in just those states that have released their records, it is known that at least 60,000 Americans were sterilized, and they were disproportionately black. In addition, during a 1973 lawsuit, a federal judge estimated that as many as 150,000 additional low-income women may have been sterilized under federal programs alone. These sterilizations were often performed without the patient's knowledge or consent, and sometimes against their will. It was also common for social workers to tell welfare recipients that they would lose their benefits if they did not agree to be sterilized. In some cases, poor families were even threatened with the loss of welfare unless they brought their children in for sterilization. The result was that some of the people sterilized were as young as 10 years old.
In the first 6 months of 1972, one hospital in Aiken County, South Carolina, sterilized over 1/3 of the Medicaid patients who were there to give birth, and all but one of these women were black. One patient said she was told by all 3 of the county's obstetricians that they would not deliver her baby unless she agreed to be be sterilized. Her claim was later confirmed by each of the doctors. Another patient said she was told by one of these same physicians that he was tired of having to help support the babies of welfare recipients and that she could either agree to be sterilized or find another doctor.
The law of nature says that only the fit shall survive. When a nation disregards this law by protecting the unfit and encouraging their multiplication, this nation invites inevitable destruction. As far as New Jersey is concerned, sterilization is an economic necessity. And as far as the United States is concerned, sterilization is a matter of national preservation. Fred Shepard, Assemblyman.
Fred Shepard was a member of the New Jersey State Legislature. He made this statement upon his introduction of a sterilization bill in March of 1942.
In some parts of the country, Planned Parenthood was closely associated with these state eugenics boards and was often a referral agency for them. But the system did not always run smoothly. In 1969, when the number of sterilizations approved by the Iowa State Eugenics Board began to drop, the board was attacked in the press by the executive director of Planned Parenthood, Robert Weber. He said that he was alarmed by the decline in numbers and that the Eugenics Board should expand its approval criteria. Board Chairman Dr. S.M. Corson responded that the board's guidelines were already fairly broad. He pointed out that approvals were routinely given for young girls for no reason other than the board's speculation that they might likely one day engage in immoral behavior without the capacity for being wives and mothers. At that point, Weber publicly scolded the board and told them that they should either increase the number of sterilizations or quit.
From its beginning, Planned Parenthood always had powerful ties to the American eugenics community. In fact, in many places they were often one and the same. For example, when the first birth control clinic was opened in Arkansas, it was operated by the Arkansas Eugenics Association and overseen by a woman named Hilda Cornish. Later, the Arkansas Eugenics Association would become the Arkansas state affiliate of Planned Parenthood, and Cornish would be named its executive director.
During the 4 months that American Birth Control League director Lothar Stalin was in Nazi Germany, he not only met with Hitler and SS Chief Heinrich Himmler, he also attended one of the Nazi eugenics schools.
The first case I saw looked like an excellent candidate for sterilization. A man in his mid-30s. He was rather ape-like in appearance. Receding forehead, flat nose with flaring nostrils, thick lips, and heavy prognathous jaw. Not vicious looking, but gross and rather dull. Lothrop Stun, Director, American Birth Control League, later known as Planned Parenthood.
Given the admiration that Adolf Hitler expressed for the American eugenics movement, it is not unlikely that he modeled the eugenics courts in Nazi Germany after the state eugenics courts in the U.S. In both countries, feeble-mindedness was routinely used as a catch-all justification for sterilization, and the diagnosis of feeble-mindedness was almost always left up to the judgment of the person advocating the sterilization.
First, the white man tells me to sit back in the butt. Now it looks like he wants me to sleep on the bed. Back in the days of slavery, black folks couldn't grow kids fast enough for white folks to harvest. Now that we got a little taste of power, white folks wants to call a moratorium on having babies. Convenient Dick Gregory, Ebony Magazine, 1971.
By the 1960s, the American eugenics movement had been reasonably successful in getting sterilization laws and prohibitions against interracial marriage passed. They also had some success in getting states to mandate sterilization for those convicted of even non-sexual crimes, and some states began to require sterilization as a condition for receiving welfare or health care. Meanwhile, another state proposed jail time for anyone who had a child out of wedlock
9/11.
unless they agreed to be sterilized, and at least one state requires sterilization as a condition of being released from custody.
But these laws were not producing the results Planned Parenthood and others in the eugenics movement wanted. They also began to fear that federal courts were going to eventually rule that these kinds of measures were unconstitutional. At about the same time, however, something new was being introduced to American society. It was called the birth control pill, and the eugenics movement quickly saw it as the perfect solution for controlling the population of people they had always seen as oversexed, unsophisticated, and lazy. But what they would eventually discover is that while the pill was enthusiastically embraced by whites, it was generally rejected by blacks, despite the fact that Planned Parenthood focused its marketing on the African American community and located the vast majority of its facilities in black neighborhoods.
What Planned Parenthood and the rest of the eugenics movement did not count on was that many blacks did not want to reduce their numbers. In fact, they saw high birth rates as the most effective way to increase their power in the American political system. The other reality was that an increasing number of African Americans were becoming suspicious that a hidden agenda was behind the birth control revolution.
I'm suspicious.
Even those who once supported the idea of population control were beginning to sense that it actually meant black population control. This feeling was evident in June of 1970 when the Black Caucus walked out of the first National Congress on Optimum Population and Environment being held in Chicago. Felton Alexander of the National Urban League and the chairman of the Black Caucus said the action was taken because of clear and unmistakable evidence that the purpose of the conference was to legitimize the extermination of the black population. By this time, many other civil rights advocates were beginning to see the same thing.
Contraceptives will become a form of drug warfare against the helpless in this nation. Jesse Jackson, 1971.
There is a campaign to bombard the poor with pills and potions. If this movement continues, we soon may be accused of fighting poverty by eliminating the poor and overcoming hunger by removing the hungry. New York Congressman Hugh Carey,
Now see, this is the problem. Look how this bastard thinks. There is a campaign to bombard the poor with pills and potions. If this movement continues, we soon may be accused of fighting poverty. Ain't that a bitch? By eliminating the poor and overcoming hunger by removing the hungry. Okay? In other words, the pills and the potions, alright? Think about it. What do you think that would be? A campaign to bombard the poor with pills and potions. Think about Jesus the other day in the Eucharist holding that big pill that I showed you with that wine. Pills and potions is definitely drugs and alcohol. If this movement continues, we soon may be accused of fighting poverty, meaning they're killing everybody. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're killing everyone that they put into a system of poverty. That's the predisposition before the murder. That's what they're doing. They murder you by putting you in neighborhoods infested with drugs, unemployment, inflation, corrupt cops, homosexuality, in churches, alcohol, all the common things, cigarette smoking, all that consumption of meat, badass propagandas around religion, and too many pagan holidays. All of that shit is a form of genocide to the melanated man and woman. Let's go on.
in 66.
Under the cover of an alleged campaign to alleviate poverty, white supremacist Americans and their dupes are pushing an all-out drive to put rigid birth control measures into every black home. No such drive exists within the white American world.
You better know something too. One of the most unique methods of birth control is their hospitals. When you do have a baby in a hospital and they disappear out of the room with your baby, you better believe they're going to probably go and give your baby an injectable that'll do some type of detrimental type of... Believe me, it's not good to be trusting people that has already bombarded you with these type of activities to be taking your fresh baby that just came out of your womb, disappearing out of the hospital room with it, to return back with it later. This is a bad practice that we have become too accustomed with. If you really want to know what I think people should get to understanding the importance of their child and not letting these barbarians, these vampires, these enslavers, these oppressors, these people that's been wiped off the planet by the sun and want to take as many black people with them as they can before they go. Do not trust them to help you bring your child into this world. As a matter of fact, do not bring your child into this world because you have already trusted them too much, and this world is not suited. That's why all the animals are dying. They're just saying, I'm out. Their spirits jumping out of their body, going to another dimension, and all this stuff going on all around our planet. People too blind to see it. So don't bring no babies into this world. You've already heard the judgment bell sound. That'll be foolish to do.
Unity Party, 1968.
Birth control and sterilization in the wrong hands would be more deadly to Negroes than all the tanks, riot guns, cattle prods, billy clubs, and shackles we have overcome in the past.
I wanted to mention that those condoms that they got in our neighborhoods right now that everyone is thinking is so safe to be putting on, and you putting those things up in your woman, and you putting your thing up inside of those damn things, and then the ones that's lubricated too got some kind of chemical substance inside of it, and you don't know what the hell it is, but you actually letting that thing come between you and your woman making sex, or you or whatever woman you running around with, and the woman herself, you and that man. My thing is this, that is just too much in the middle of the white man involvement, okay? That is just too much of you allowing him to be in the middle of every damn thing, to be putting that condom between you making love. Now that's just too much, all right? It really is. Listen to what I'm saying. I believe they're putting shit in those condoms. Stop doing those things. Stop having so much damn sex. If you need to have a condom on when you're having sex, you should not be doing it.
Roy Swift, obstetrician, gynecologist, 1968.
As it became clear that a growing number of African Americans were connecting the dots between birth control and black genocide, eugenics organizations began calling for the U.S. government to add birth control chemicals to the nation's food and water supply. It was even suggested that this strategy could be specifically targeted at urban neighborhoods. This idea was widely embraced in the eugenics movement and taken seriously enough by the government to be discussed at a 1969 meeting at the United Nations.
When I left Los Angeles about 2 years ago, we were all under the ideal and assumption, we were seriously accusing the city of Los Angeles of putting stuff in the water. The water there is so horrible, nobody drinks it. And when I was leaving there, they were putting new pipes in the ground all over that city. Everywhere you went, there was water and sewage, control trucks excavating, putting new pipes in, and everybody in that city suspects that those new pipes they was putting in are designed to administer poison into the water system around the Los Angeles area so they could be in position to commit mass murder of the unsuspecting recipients of the water company there. Now, that is not anything that has been substantiated, and that is a big claim for me to make because I have no real solid proof of that outside of the consciousness community that I used to hang out with around the Merck Park and all over the different black centers, as well as some white people and some Latino people all agree that they are doing too much excavating to the water pipes around that city, and people are noticing automatic turnoff valves that's been put in the ground too, because as a matter of fact, they had a segment done on the DVD where professional plumbers themselves gave their 2 cents to this suspicion and said that they themselves had witnessed the government putting elaborate off and on switches with alternate routes of plumbing that could run into the city water supply line. And then they asked these plumbers, why do they think this auxiliary line was added to this city's water supply system? And all of those plumbers replied, because the government has a special plan to introduce something to the city water supply at any given interval that they decide that it's time to do it. And then they say, well, what do you mean by that? Just explain to us in layman's term what you're saying. And the plumber itself that was responsible for some of the pipe that got put into the ground on the DVD mentioned that he suspect that they had ulterior plans to deliver something to the homes in Los Angeles other than drinking water. He said they were going to put some type of contaminant with the water. Now this is what one of the workers that allegedly had worked on the new plumbing system that they were installing all over that city had to say. And I have that DVD in Los Angeles, along with a whole lot of other books and things that I haven't been able to get back down there and get. But I really am hoping that my circumstances change so I could go down there and get that DVD along with other footage that I have of things I've taken around the city to show you my accusations that they are making these warehouses with gun towers on them in disguise of concentration. Why would you make a warehouse with a 10 feet tall concrete brick wall? I mean, it could be 12 feet all the way around the perimeter with a big ass gun, a big tower on top with windows all the way around it and a catwalk that is obvious to me straight out of a damn prison yard. And when I go back to LA, I am going to get all those pictures and all that stuff that I've been when I was investigating down there, and I'm going to show it to you. When I get in LA, I'm going to upload that shit right away. Please believe it, so you guys can see what I'm talking about. And this stuff right here that you're looking at right now with the suggestion of them putting contaminants in the water, before I left Los Angeles, that was one of the biggest concerns of all the community people there in that city.
Under the plan being considered, a couple could apply to the government for permission to have a
See
child.
that? Look what it
They
said.
would
It
be
said Los
entitled
Angeles.
to
See
the
there?
population control chemicals they had ingested.
Did you see that? Look what it said. See, it just goes to show you what I'm saying is
Couple
true.
could apply to the
It's
government
Los
for
Angeles. See
permission to have
there?
a child.
Did you see
And if
there?
approved, they would be given an antidote to the population control chemicals they had ingested in their food and water. Interestingly, the idea that government should have some sort of licensing agreement to regulate who would and would not be allowed to give birth was not a new one. In 1934, Planned Parenthood founder Margaret Sanger had proposed that the U.S. government implement a system in which women would not have the legal right to have a child without a permit from the government, and that these permits would only be good for one baby.
But eventually, proposals like forced sterilization, chemicals in the food and water supply, and government control of childbearing were abandoned by most people in the eugenics movement. Despite the fact that many of them openly advocated such ideas, they would come to realize that there was really no practical way to carry them out. But for all their failures, what the eugenics movement had accomplished was to lay the foundation for the next phase of their plan. And this is where they would find the success that they have been chasing for over 100 years.
What would you say is now the #1 cause of death in the African American community?
Heart disease.
Oh, HIV/AIDS.
Diabetes, cancer, AIDS.
It's infant immortality. Infant mortality, I mean to
From what I
say.
heard, it's probably AIDS, you know.
Probably heart disease. I think heart disease.
HIV, gang violence.
What if I told you the real answer was abortion?
Since 1973, legal abortion has killed more African Americans than AIDS, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and violent crime combined. Every week, more blacks die in American abortion clinics than were killed in the entire Vietnam War. And the largest chain of abortion clinics in the United States is operated by Planned Parenthood.
Now listen, I want to elaborate on this. They say since 1973, legal abortion has killed more African Americans than AIDS, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and violent crime combined. Okay, that means that black women and white men are killing black babies. Okay, that's what that means. Now, I don't care how anybody look at it. I'm giving you the true dynamics of that. Okay, because let me explain to you why. Now, everybody can walk around this earth and talk shit about deadbeat daddies if they want to. But we have a system where the black white man has joined forces with the black woman to victimize the black man through the black man having intercourse with the black woman or a white woman. Any woman that a black man has an intercourse with, if a baby is sired through that intercourse, the black man stands a chance to be victimized by the relationship that the white man have with all the mothers on this planet, especially the ones that have, all men are victimized by what I'm saying to you, because doing divorces and everything, lawyers always join up with the wife and try to take everything that's a part of the family, but most lawyers are male lawyers trying to take away from other males. It is circumstances where you have female lawyers that get involved with that too and join up with the females, but for the most part what you have is greedy, hungry ass white lawyers that is trying to attack some poor hard-working man because this hard-working man is having some unfortunate problems with his marriage, and before he could get a chance to fix his marriage, you got some lawyer biting in this woman's ear, convincing her of everything she could get from the man so he could be able to get his cut out of that. And a lot of black women join up with these white lawyers and attack their hard-working man, and then the lawyer gets all in the business and the man have to get a lawyer. Now you have two lawyers that's going to make a decision between this black man and this black woman of what's going to go on with them the rest of their lives, which is foolishness any way you look at it. But before it even gets that far, you have a black woman sometimes who could get pregnant outside of marriage and then go ahead and have the baby, even though she had no written consent from this man or anything. Only thing this man was interested in was an intimate moment with this woman, and by her getting pregnant, now he's attached to her not taking care of her responsibilities, because any way you look at it, it's her responsibility. Want me to prove that to you? If she gets pregnant and the man walk up to her and say, you know what, I don't want to be a father, I want you to have an abortion, he has no power. She can say, I don't care what you want, I'm still going to have this baby, and you are responsible for it because you are the father. And then the man is like, but wait a minute, I don't ever remember giving you permission to get pregnant by me. The only thing I consented to was having sex with you. All this part about you going out of your way to get pregnant and everything, because pretty much that's what she did. Because to prove that to you, every woman that has a uterus is responsible for that uterus. Just like if you did something stupid with your car and made your car damage someone else's property, you would have to be responsible for your car being the cause of someone else's property getting damaged. It should be looked at the same way with her being responsible for her uterus. If a woman, as beautiful as they are and as enticing as they could be to men, allows herself to get pregnant outside of wedlock and without some form of written consent from some guy giving her permission to get pregnant by him, she should be held more responsible for that than some guy who's going to be handcuffed and thrown in jail in a dilapidated system that has been designed to destroy black men anyway. And you should not use a part of nature where men and women were designed by the universe to procreate, and then you want to jump in the seat of control, and the way you control that is by pointing the finger to the man that you have victimized all your life. And you know the only thing you're doing is using that black woman to help you destroy her man. And if you do not destroy the man, you convince her to destroy the child, and you are both going to be held accountable for that shit.
We have now reached a point in this country that African American women, though they make up 12% of the population, they account for 37% of the abortions. An African American baby is almost 5 times more likely to be aborted than a white child. The abortion industry at this point kills as many African American people every 4 days as the Klan killed in 150 years.
Now listen, Judge, you need to know this. Instead of you wasting all the taxpayers' money to try to put me in prison for a bite that you know I did not steal, You need to go out there and get all those people in Planned Parenthood and arrest their ass for all those child murders, and then you will be someone that is fitting to be sitting on that freaking podium. But as long as you waste the taxpayer money trying to incarcerate men that has done nothing except been born under a description of what the Creator God wanted them to be born under, then your ass need to go take a flying jump somewhere. And you know the other word I wanted to say, but I didn't say that because I'm in a good mood tonight. But real seriously though, you should take your priorities and really have them evaluated.
And you can truly say the most dangerous place for an African American to be is in the womb of their African American mother.
I agree. You women are going to pay for that shit.
Stand outside of the abortion clinics and see a steady stream of black women coming in and out. But somewhere along the way, we got the idea that this is a white issue or a conservative issue or a Republican issue, and therefore it's not an issue that we have to be concerned about. This same...
Here's my thing, okay? Everybody should be wise enough to know how your body works. And you as a woman that has a uterus, your